Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and to a new video. Today we are going to install Alpine Linux. This is actually a video I wanted to do for some time. And so in this video we're going to install Alpine Linux from scratch with a desktop environment. It's just going to be a demonstration of this Linux distribution, which is very lightweight, and it's using the Openrc init system. So without too much talking, let's jump into the video. So here we go, guys. Let's have a look at Alpine Linux. This is something I actually wanted to do since some time, but I didn't have the time. But now I do. So we're going to look at Alpine Linux in this video. We're going to make a basic installation. Now, what is Alpine Linux? It's a very lightweight Linux distribution, as you can see here in the Wikipedia article, to which I will leave a link in the video description below. It's a lightweight Linux distribution designed for security, simplicity, and resource efficiency. And also it uses the Openrc init system. Now, I've been doing actually one video, I think, about Openrc, and that was on Artix Linux. And so we find again this init system here in Alpine Linux. Now, Alpine Linux has also his own package management tool, which is called APK Tools, which, as it says here, originally was a collection of shell scripts, but was later rewritten in C. So because of its versatility and flexibility, Alpine Linux, it's a really lightweight distribution, also very light on resources. You can basically choose how you want to build your installation here, exactly the same way we do on Arch, but with another init system and more stripped down packages that you can install if you need them. So here we have the Alpine Linux website. As you can see here, the latest release is the 3.15, which was released on the 24th of November of last year, 2021. And if you want to download the ISO, you can go to the download section here and you can select your version. Now we have several editions here. We have standard, extended, netboot, Raspberry Pi, generic ARM, and mini root file system. And here we have also virtual and Xen. So really up to you here which one you want to install. You can see here the description, Alpine as it was intended. This is a standard version, just enough to get you started. Network connection is required. Now the extended ISO here has most common use packages included, suitable for routers and servers. It runs from RAM and includes AMD and Intel microcode updates. Now we have also netboot here for the kernel and initramfs and modloop for netboot, and also other variations. Now it's really up to you which one you want to start with. I'm going to go here for the standard ISO. So I'm just going to download, actually I already downloaded the ISO here. You can select your architecture and then you can burn it to a USB stick, or you can try it out on a virtual machine, as I will do in this video just for demonstration purposes. So once you burn your ISO there and you boot up the machine from your ISO or your virtual machine from the ISO, this is what you're going to see. So we have here the grab bootloader, which is ready to go. You can see here it says Linux LTS because it's using the LTS version of the kernel. And so we can boot up here our machine by just hitting enter. And it's going to take a moment. You will see the typical Openrc menu here, or boot menu better said, when we start the ISO. Now, to log in into the ISO, you need to type in here the root for the root user, and it has no password. So you can just hit enter and you will be into your shell. Now be aware, this is actually not bash or zsh, this is the ash shell. So you can install bash later if you wish to do so. Now I will leave a link in the video description below also to the Alpine Linux wiki, where it is explained how you can install Alpine in several different ways, especially if you want to format the disk in a specific way. Now, in this first video for Alpine Linux, I'm just going to go through the standard installation, which is using the setup-alpine script, which is already included in the ISO. And that by default will create, if you have a UEFI machine, a UEFI partition, a swap partition, and a root partition. So if you want to have a particular partitioning for your disk, you will have to partition the disk first and then run the installation. But I'm going to do this maybe in another video. For now, what we can type in here is setup-alpine and then hit enter. So first things first, select your keyboard. Now we have already a big selection of keyboards here. I'm going to choose mine, which is the German keyboard connotation is DE, and then hit enter. And we have several variations here. So I'm just going to type in here DE again. And the next question here is to select your host name, the name for your machine. I'm going to call mine Alpine. can select, of course, the name of your choice. Now here it's asking me which interface for internet I want to use. Now this is a virtual machine, so I have only one internet interface, which is the Ethernet interface. You can see there ETH0. Now if you have Wi-Fi on your machine, you will see also the adapter here, and it's asking me which one do you want to initialize. Now by default, you can see in the square brackets, it's telling me ETH0, which is the only one I have. But if you want to use another one, of course, you can replace it with the name of your adapter that you see in the list there. So I'm going to accept the default here and just hit enter. And it's asking me if I want to use DHCP. So I'm going to say yes, that's the default way. And do you want to do any manual network configuration? I don't need this right now, so I'm just going to accept the default here for no. And it's going to take a moment here to start the HCP. And now we can change our root password. So I'm just going to type in my password here. My password is too weak. That's okay, just for demo purposes here. And I'm going to retype it. Now, which time zone are you in? Now, UTC for me, it's fine, but if you are not sure about yours, you can also here hit the question mark and hit enter. And you can select then basically your continent and then your time zone. Now, for me, UTC is fine, so I'm just going to hit enter here to accept the default. And proxies, I don't need them, so I'm just going to accept the default here for none. And now we can select our mirrors. Now here what I do usually is to select F, as it says here at the bottom, to detect and add the fastest mirror from the above list. So I'm going to hit F here and hit enter. This is basically going to probe all the mirrors that are listed there and see the one that is faster for my location. So it's going to take a couple of seconds here, guys. I'm going to cut the video right there. All right, the selection is now done, and you can see that it's asking me which SSH server do I want to have. To be honest with you, I don't actually need one right now, but the default one is OpenSSH, but I'm going to type in here none, because I don't need actually an SSH server on this machine. Now, available disks are, in my case, VDA, as you can see there, it's about 50 gigabytes, and it's asking me which disk would you like to use. Well, I have only one, and by default, it's telling me none, but I actually want to use VDA, so I'm just going to type in VDA here. Of course, replace the name of the disk that you have on your machine. Now, how would you like to use this disk? You can see that we have sys, data, crypt, LVM, or question mark. So what do these words actually mean? Well, let's have a look with the question mark here, which is already default. So I'm just going to hit enter. And you can see here the explanation. So sys, this mode is a traditional disk install. The following partitions will be created on the disk: boot, file system root, and swap. We have also data. This mode uses your disk for data storage, not for the operating system. And then crypt, enable encryption with crypt setup and ask again for sys or data. So you basically can encrypt your partition, and then you will be asked if you want to use this disk for installing the OS or to use it for data storage. We have also LVM to enable logical volume management. And then, of course, you can also set it up as sys or data. And we have also LVM sys, which is the same as sys, but uses logical volume manager for partitioning, and LVM data, same as data, but uses LVM for partitioning. So in my case, it's going to be a traditional disk install. So I'm going to type in here sys and then hit enter. So warning, erase the above disks and continue. Yes, and hit enter. So now we're basically partitioning the disk, installing already the grub bootloader there, and installing the base system. So this is going to take very short time, just a couple of seconds. As you can see there, it's going very quick. And once this base installation is done, we can reboot the machine and we have our base system installed. Now it is creating the init.ramfs. As you can see also there, now the installation is complete. Now be aware here, as it says here on the display, OS Prober is actually disabled because you can see that it says OS Prober will not be executed. So if you want to use OS Prober for detecting other OSs, you will have to edit the grub configuration file and add the grub disable OS Prober equal false line to the configuration file and rerun the grub configuration command. This is the same thing we do on Arch as well. So for me, actually, this is now fine. So I'm just going to reboot my machine. It's going to take a second to do that. As you can see here, we are now on grub and it's booting up directly, and we will boot up directly in our shell because we haven't installed any desktop environment or similar. So again, I need to go in with the root user, so root, and now I can enter the password I selected before, and now we are in our installation. So this is basically the base install. So we have a very light system here. If I type in free-h, you can see we are using barely 85 megabytes of RAM. Now we can proceed here and install, for example, a desktop environment or a window manager or anything else. Alpine is very flexible, and the Openrc init system is also very light and very flexible as well. So in this video, I'm going to install actually a desktop environment just to show you how you can do it. But I'm going to explore more scenarios for Alpine Linux in the future anyway, maybe with window managers or even for servers. So the first thing I want to do here is actually to create first a new user for the system because I don't want to work as a root user the whole time. So to create another user, I'm going to type in here add user -g, and then double quotes. This is going to be my full name here. Close double quotes, and the username I want to select, which is Hermano, and then hit enter. And I'm going to be asked to select my password. So I'm going to select one here. And again, it's a weak password, that's fine, just for the video. And the user is now there. Now it's really up to you if you want to work with a separate user and go into the root user when you want to install packages, but you can have also, of course, the option to use this user as a sudo user or as a privileged user, better said. Now here you have two choices. You can install the sudo package, or you can also install the do as package, which is basically going to provide you with the do as utility, which will grant you root privileges when you are installing packages. Now, do as is actually a standard utility on BSD and is actually lighter as a package as sudo. So I'm going to install do as here in this video so that you can see how it's done. First of all, we have already the user created here with my username, and we can add this user to the will group. So to do this, we can type in add user, and then the username, which is my name, and the group we want to add is the will group. Now we need to install do as and also an editor. Now I'm going to type in here apk add. So apk, as I said before, is the package manager for Alpine Linux. And the packages I'm going to install are do as and one editor. It can be Nano, it can be Vim. I'm going to install Vim in my case. It's really up to you. And those are now installed. Now the last thing we need to do, we need to edit the do as configuration file and make the will group persistent. So we do this by typing in vim/etc/doas.conf, and we are basically going down to the end of the file here and insert a new line which reads permit space persist space colon will, and then we can save this file and exit vim with :x. And this is now done. Now in the Alpine Wiki, it's also described how you can also do the same thing with the sudo package. So if you prefer sudo, go ahead and check the wiki for that. Now the next step is also to enable the community repository, which contains more packages for our installation. Now that is actually included in the repositories file, which is under the etc apk directory. So we need to edit that file by typing in vim or nano if you have nano /etc/apk/repositories. And you can see that the second line here is community preceded by the version of this distribution. So this is the one I want to have. So I'm just going to take away the comment here and save this file and exit vim. And now I can refresh the repositories by typing in apk and then update. And you can see there I'm refreshing also from the community repository. So this is now done. The next step would be to install our desktop environment. Well, the first thing I want to do is to set up Xorg because I'm installing in this video XFCE, and XFCE requires actually Xorg. So to set up Xorg, the basic packages for Xorg, we can use the setup-xorg-base command and then hit enter. So this is basically going to install basic packages for Xorg. It's going to take a moment to do this. As you can see, it's already done. And now we can proceed by installing our desktop environment, which, as I said before in this video, is going to be XFCE. So to install XFCE, we can type in apk add, and then the packages we need. So we need XFCE4, we need XFCE4-terminal, we need also XFCE4-screensaver, And we need also lightdm-gtk-greeter, which is going to install lightdm as well. And we need also dbus. And I'm going to install actually the advaita-icon-theme for this video. And that's going to be it for now. So I'm just going to hit enter here, and it's going to install the basic packages. You can see 176 packages, and the installation is pretty fast, of course, depending also on your internet connection and the speed of the machine. But you can see it's pretty quick to install here the basic packages for XFCE. Now, the next steps would be also to enable lightdm so that when we reboot the machine, we can also log into the desktop environment. So we don't have systemd here, so we need to add lightdm to the Openrc init system so that it boots up when we reboot our machine. So to do this, we have the rc-update command, and then add, because we need to add something to the init system. And what we want to add is lightdm, and then hit enter. And you can see there, lightdm added to the run level default. Now, another thing we need to do here is also to add dbus to the same thing. So let's pull up again the last command here, and we can replace lightdm with dbus. We could do actually both at the same time, but it's easier to explain this way. So dbus is the desktop bus, so we need to enable this also when we boot the machine. Now, for a basic install, this is okay, but there is also another thing that I would like to do, and that is to allow also shutdown and reboot for users. So to do this, we need to install two extra packages. So let's type in apk, let me clean up the terminal, add. So the first one is eloginD and also polkit -e-login-d, and then hit enter. So take a moment to do this. There you go. And there are also other packages that we can use. For example, if you want to have automatic mounting for USB drives and all this good stuff, you will find all this info in the Alpine wiki if you want to do this. Now I'm going to reboot the machine, and if everything went well, we should be greeted by the lightdm display manager. So let's type in a reboot. It's going to take a moment to do that. So you can see here we have the grub bootloader. So let's boot up Alpine. It's going to take a moment here to boot up. And again, you can see here the typical Openrc boot process. And if everything went well, we should be seeing the lightdm display manager, which is right here. So let's enter the password. And we are now in XFCE. So this is a typical installation. So let's boot up the terminal here and type in, let me increase the font sizes. And we can type in here free-h. You can see we are using about 315 megabytes of RAM. XFCE is very light. Now be aware that you don't have all the utilities available here in Alpine. You will need to install something like lsblk or other utilities that you might use, for example, to monitor your system. So for example, if I type in here top, the top utility is already installed, but htop is not installed, like also in other distributions. So if you need this, you need to install it by typing in do as apk add and then htop, for example. And enter the password here, and it's going to install it. There you go. Now, if you type in htop, it's there. And so other basic utilities are included in other packages, so you can just install them if you need them. Now let's close this and go to the file manager. You can see here we have our home directories here already created. We have the Advaita icon theme already here available for us. And we have the typical XFCE desktop environment here. If you go to the settings manager, go under appearance here, we have only one theme right now and also only the Advaita icons, but you can change, of course, this and install more if you need to do so. So this is a very first look at Alpine Linux. As I said, Alpine Linux is a very lightweight distribution, and using the Openrc makes the system also very snappy and fast on boot and also on shutdown. Now, I will do other videos about Alpine Linux in the future, and if there is something specific that you want to see, let me know in the comments below and I will try to cover it. So this was the first video for Alpine Linux. You can see it's a very lightweight distribution, and by using the Openrc init system, it makes the distribution very snappy. Now, I'm going to explore Alpine Linux a little bit more in the future, and as I said before, if you have anything specific that you would like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. And if you have any question about this video, let me also know in the comments below. And I also hope that you liked the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. That always helps. and I'll see you very soon in the next video.